Hello, in this video we will learn about the heart murmur. The heart murmur is the unique sound of heart and produced when blood flow across heart wall or blood vessel. So remember that things. The unique sound of heart produced when blood flow across heart wall or blood vessel. This occurs when turbulent blood flow creates a sound loud enough to hear with a stethoscope. So remember that the normal heartbeat sound is lub dub, is the systolic and diastolic blood pressure and systolic and diastolic phase of the heart. Let's begin to understand first the structure of the heart. This is the sagittal cross section of the heart. This is the aorta, and this is the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava used for the deoxygenated blood move toward the right atrium. So this is the right atrium, right ventricle, and this when the ventricle will contract will eject the blood to the pulmonary circulation through pulmonary artery. So this is the bicuspid wall and mitral wall. Remember the tricuspid wall, and this is the pulmonary wall, and this is the pulmonary artery, while this is the pulmonary vein, which that's contain oxygenated blood due to the pulmonary circulation, while the systemic circulation is opposite. So the left atrium and left ventricle is this, used for the oxygenated blood move eject to the heart toward the periphery. Anyhow, let's begin to understand the heartbeat cycle. So the heartbeat cycle is basically contain a systolic phase and diastolic phase. Let's begin to understand first. This is the isovolumetric relaxation of the heart. This is the ventricular diastole only. This ventricular diastole will start when, so let's begin to understand from the start point. And in this way, this will be the ECG wave will be T wave. Remember, PQRST, but this is the T wave, and the 80 millimeter of mercury is the blood pressure will be detect. So when start, the blood will move from the pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein, and the inferior and superior vena cava to the atrium, both atrium. And in this way, the ventricular filling, the ventricle diastole will occur. In this way, the ventricle will be dilate after late diastolic blood pressure, diastolic phase of the heart. And in this way, you can understand this is the T waves. Remember, this will lead to T waves, not P, Q, or S, T, only T. While in this way, this is the ventricular diastole will occur, and in this way, the ventricular diastole, due to the filling of the blood into the atrium, both atrium, and this will lead to P wave. This P wave diastolic means the complete filling of the blood, and this is the atrial contraction. The atria will contract to complete blood fill in the ventricle. So the atrial systole will begin here. After this, here you can see this is the Q or S wave will occur. In this way, the isovolumic contraction will occur, and the ventricular contraction, the volumetric, the systolic first phase. The systolic first phase will lead to, in this way, here, ventricular ejection will occur after the late phase, second phase, and the ventricular systole second phase. The second phase will eject the blood toward the lungs as well as toward the peripheral part of the body through descending aorta and aortic arch. This is the heartbeat cycle, remember. So this is the heartbeat cycle. I hope you make sense about that. This is the systolic blood pressure, and this is the diastolic blood pressure. So the phase can be complete through a three steps. So this is a normal ECG. Electrocardiogram will show the PQRST wave. But here is the normal waves for the normal heartbeat. This is a P wave as well as T wave, already mentioned in the previous diagram. So this is the diastolic phase involved, while the blue box I am showing the mentioning is the systolic. This is a person which that is the blood pressure. This person is basically the blood pressure we can measure through a mercury, the millimeter of mercury, 120 over 80. The systolic is 120 and diastolic is the 80 millimeter of mercury. And the normal sound can produce lub and dub on the basis of the systolic, lub, and the diastolic is the dub. This is the irregular heartbeat rhythm, which that will show the electrocardiogram is that different. And in this way, the basically you can understand the irregular heartbeat, irregular heart rhythm, which that will lead to cause many complication. So this is the PQRST. In this way, the and the systolic and the diastolic blood pressure. In this way, the PQRST wave will show in this diagram. So you can see this is the systolic and diastolic blood pressure. But in this way, we will understand this is the diastolic, again systolic, again diastolic, and systolic. So phonograph we will understand about the sound waves will show in the phonograph. This is the S1, S2, S3, and S4. S1 is used for the systolic, while before the S systolic, and again diastolic, and again systolic. In this way, here is the wave normal is showing in the diagram, while the abnormal is the aortic stenosis will show the systolic, and again systolic will produce sound, while the mitral regurgitation also produce the systolic sound, but the diastolic sound will produce from the aortic regurgitation as well as also systolic, while this is the patent ductus arteriosus, which that produce the sound in every phase, diastole, systole, and diastole. So but more and less can be occur. Anyhow, let's begin to understand the systolic murmurs and diastolic murmurs. So, what is the systolic murmurs? Systolic murmurs mean when the systolic heartbeat will cause the problem. For example, the aortic stenosis and the pulmonic stenosis, mitral regurgitation, and the mitral valve prolapse, atrial septal defect, and the ventricular septal defect, and the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. While the diastolic murmur involve the aortic regurgitation again, pulmonic regurgitation, and the mitral stenosis, tricuspid stenosis, and the Austin Flint murmur, and the continuous murmur. While on the other hand, the patent ductus arteriosus, the combination murmur, which that will produce the sound during the diastolic phase of the heart, while the systolic phase of the heart is showing in that diagram. So anyhow, I hope you make sense about that. Heart murmur is due to the heart valve problem or the heart muscle problem or some other peripheral problem. So I hope you make sense about that. It will lead to also change the blood pressure as well as a lot of problems. So a lot of complication can arise due to the heart murmur. But the initial phase we can identify for the diagnosis. But remember that we have discussed in this video about the heart murmur only. Not we have discussed about the diagnosis and treatment. We have just understand about the graph, the sonograph or phonograph or sonogram for sound detection. So thanks for watching. Bye.